Welcome back. We are in Senior AP English, and our objective now is to work through the soliloquy of Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 2, what for your notes is often referred to as the two solid flesh soliloquy, for reasons that will become self-evident once we kind of get into this thing. We're going to ask a real simple question and try and answer it in the few minutes that we have. The question is, what's wrong with this kid? What's wrong with Hamlet? And what's the origin of his extreme depressive state? Let's begin first of all by pointing out what it is that he says. Oh, that this two solid flesh would melt, thaw, and resolve itself into a dew. That is to say what? Put it in your own words. I wish what? I wish I was dead. This is where we want to start. Hamlet will say out loud, I wish I was dead. Notice he says, or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. Now the term self-slaughter means what? Suicide. What does the word canon mean? Did you read that word? What does that word canon mean? I mean, I know what you do when you load up that gun thingy and it shoots stuff, but that's not this word. This is a different word. Canon here will mean sacred text or religious text. Of course, in this context, it means the Bible. Let's point out, he said already two things for us. One, I wish I was dead. Two, I would kill myself if it wasn't for, that nasty scene in Dante's Inferno. Remember, we're in 1600. We're 300 years after Dante, roughly. So everybody knows that one scene in Dante's Inferno where those suicides get torn up over and over and over again. Everyone knows that scene. It's kind of a horrific scene. Wait a minute. Let's point out something. This is a play about death. This is a play to be or not to be is the Act 3 soliloquy on suicide. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing in them. That's what Hamlet says. To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Oh, there's the rub. That's Act 3. By Act 3, he's still going to be playing the game of potential suicide. Hamlet is a deeply disturbed kiddo who not only wishes he was dead, but wishes that he could be the one to do it. He would kill himself if it wasn't for the church, for the Bible, for the holy canon that tells him if you kill yourself, you doom your life, as Dante spoke in the afterlife, to a terrible hell. He continues, oh God, God. I want to point out, by the way, this is brilliant on Shakespeare's part. When presented by a brilliant actor, you get a real sense of the way in which Hamlet can't finish his words. He's so upset. Have you ever been here? He's so upset he can't speak in full sentences. It's like he'll start an idea and then it gets cut off. And then he's ready to start another idea and then it gets cut off. He'll begin here with, oh God, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world, exclamation point. That is to say, the world is weary. Well, you see the line there. Notice, unprofitable. My life is not going well, Hamlet says. The world is wretched. He continues with an interesting word picture. Notice he says about the world. First he uses the F word a couple of times. Phi on it, phi. 'Tis the world. An unweeded garden that grows to seed. Now, if your mama has a garden and it grows to seed, what does that mean? What does that mean about that garden? If it grows to seed, what does that mean? It is untended. Let's point out his view here of the world. The world is not Eden. This is important. Are you familiar with the mythology of Genesis 3 and the Garden of Eden? We'll come to it again with Milton, of course, in Paradise Lost. He says about the world, it ain't no Eden. There is no tending. There is no weeding. There is no one to take care of the world. This will be significant because his daddy, old man Hamlet, will die
In a garden.
in a garden. And at some point, again, as I say, we go through this, you're going to begin to ask, really? Did Shakespeare kind of know what he was doing in Act 1 when Hamlet speaks for the first time? And he likens the world to a garden, only it's not a well-kept garden. It's a garden that is completely unkept. Notice, things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. What is he so upset about? Now he's going to try and tell us. But notice Shakespeare can't really, he can't really have a kid speak in full language. It's kind of part. Notice he says that it should come to this. But 2 months dead. Now I'm going to point out that Shakespeare has Hamlet compressed time. The question will be, how long ago did he lose his daddy? How long ago was it? Notice in this little soliloquy how it goes from kind of like 2 months, and then every time he says it, it just compresses down to be a less and less amount of time. What is Hamlet so upset about? Well, on the outside looking in, it's probably, according to his mom and stepdad, it has something to do with the passing of his father, right? And all of that. That it should come to this. Notice he'll continue. But 2 months dead, dash, nay, not so much, not two. He can't finish the thought. So excellent a king that was to this Hyperion, the sun god, to a satyr. That is to say, half man, half beast is how he'll see his uncle. So loving to my mother, obviously speaking about his father, so loving to my mother that he might not beteem the winds of heaven visit her face too roughly. He says, my dad treated my mom like a jewel, took good care of her. Notice he continues, must I remember? It's an intriguing question because Hamlet really does struggle with this whole thing of memory and remembering and the way in which the past haunts him. Why, she would hang on him, his mother, as if increase of appetite had grown by what it fed on, and yet, notice now it's a month. Within a month, so it's compressed, now from 2 months ago, now to a month. Notice the dash. Let me not think on it, and usually the actor will grab his head as if it's about to explode. We'll see this gesture a couple of more times in soliloquies as well, as if Hamlet is losing his mind. Let's put it in your notes now. This is a play about madness, which is why if you take degrees in psychology, you're almost always going to be requested by some brilliant prof to sit down and analyze and psychoanalyze the young man Hamlet. Dude, what's up with this guy? Notice, let me not think on it. Frailty, thy name is woman. Now let's point out that after Shakespeare's epoch, the Feminist Critique will look at Shakespeare's plays to ask about Shakespeare's portrayal of women, the way in which he presents women, the things he says about women, and of course the women who will perform on stage. Remember, in Shakespeare's day, none of them were women. Juliet was in fact played by a young boy, which if you'll think about it, and you want to go back to look at all those lines, like the bedroom scenes and all of those lines from the balcony, they're really funny to a groundling audience if they understand that a male is the one speaking those lines to Romeo, dressed up as a female, with a voice that hasn't yet broken and therefore is still kind of high, because that's how Shakespeare played it in his day. Later, of course, Shakespeare's women characters will be played, in fact, by females. Notice here what he says about women, and more particularly this word frailty. What does he mean by frailty, thy name is woman? What is he so mad about? Is it the death of his father? No, we kind of get a sense, okay, Daddy died. But that is not what his focus is here. What is his focus? What is it that Hamlet is so PO'd about?
His mama.
He's mad at his mama. He can't even talk about her in full sentences. He is so outraged. He says frailty. Do you have any sense what that word means?
Weak.
Weak? Frailty means weak. Keep going. Frailty, thy name is woman. Notice it's less than a month now. Less than a month. We've gone from 2 months to a month to now less than a month. Notice the next line. A little month, or ere those shoes were old with which she followed my poor father's body, like Niobe, a reference to a famous mythic character. All tears, why she, even she, he can't continue the line. Oh God, he says it again. A beast that once discourse of reason would have mourned longer, married with my uncle. And finally it comes, ah, we get it. This is what this kid's so upset about. It's not so much the passing of his father. It's that his mama did what? my father's brother. And then he makes this observation about his disgusting uncle. But no more like my father than I to Hercules. Within a month, notice he's back to it, compressing it even now to a matter of days. Ere yet the salt of most unrighteous tears had left the flushing of her galled eyes, she married. And then lines that Mel Gibson said were the favorite lines of this play for him to repeat as he got ready to perform this for the film. He said, you can't say these lines well without spitting. Look at them. And you can play it in your own time to actually read these lines out loud. They're kind of fun to read out loud. Oh, most wicked speed, to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. Now let's break it down. Most wicked speed means what? We're not talking about running fast speed. We're talking about what? What is speed here that's so wicked? Right. Notice it almost seems as if it's not so much marrying his uncle that bothers him for his mother, but the speed. Yeah, the speed with which she moved on so quickly. It's like, bam. Oh, get the new guy. The old one's done. Of course, immediately, 3A observation. Who do we think about in regards to Chaucer's wonderful creation of a woman that said, marriage sucks, I should know, I've had 5. I'm waiting for the 6th one to appear. That idea that a woman always needs to have the next man, always waiting, and as soon as my dad died, bam, she was ready to go. Notice that he says about this, to post with such dexterity, she seemed to do it pretty quickly and pretty easily, to incestuous sheets. Whoa. Whoa. Yeah, he has demeaned this marriage to the level of bestiality. He will say earlier, a beast would want discourse of more reason. Incestuous. Disgusting. In what ways could he call it incestuous? Why would it be incestuous? Right. This is all within the family kind of thing, right? And to that degree, he sees it as disgusting. And then 2 of the really important lines of the play happening so early in this play, Shakespeare pulling no punches early on. He wants the audience to understand this ain't going to be no comedy. This is going to be a tragedy. And we're going to hear it right away. Take a look at how he says it. It is not, nor it cannot come to good. Now, when you were in 8th grade, we taught this as foreshadowing, right? This notion that the author is going to give you some idea. Yeah, this isn't going to end well. This cannot end well. Something is wrong, and it can't go well. But then the next line, I've had seniors who say, this may be the saddest line I've ever read, both because of what it says and the way it resonates in the life of 1 or 2 teenagers, young people before the age of 20. Look what he says. It is not, nor it cannot come to good, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue. What does that mean to you? Break my heart, for I must hold my tongue.
Even if it kills you, you have to stay quiet.
It's like I know everything. Notice how he's tried to say it here alone in soliloquizing, and yet he says, I can't say anything out loud. Why not? Why can't he just go up to his mother and say, how dare you do this? I am so unbelievably angry at you.
It's his mom.
We're all familiar with being in positions of authority figures. We know something is wrong. We know we're angry. We cannot say it because the political dynamics don't allow for it. So we have to repress it, to speak in psychological language. We have to repress it, right? We can spew it and say it out loud in private. But the minute we walk out of the bedroom door, bing, that goes the smile again, and the world is all okay. Why? Because we cannot let the authority figure, sometimes parent, sometimes teacher, whatever, can't let the authority figure know because there's a political reality that lies beyond the acknowledgement. In other words, if he throws down on his mama or on his stepfather / uncle, he realizes he's got serious political recriminations on him. He is, in an existential moment, stuck. That's important to this play. Because let's just say it out loud, because I'm going to preempt it and say it for you. This is a painfully, you might underline that word, boring, and you might circle that word, play. It is. This is a painfully boring play. You will go to this play and watch it, and if every single line is spoken on stage, which it often is not, I told you already the Fortinbras subplot is often edited out, because if every single line of this play is spoken, it can go on close to 3 hours. And I will tell you in advance, in this play, nothing happens. Nothing happens. I will tell you in advance, if you come to this play looking for all kinds of action, you're going to be stunned. Nothing happens. There's a lot of this. Talk, 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 talk. And there's a lot of sitting, stuck in an existential moment. Hamlet will tell us in his first soliloquy how outraged he is. But when we saw him on stage just a few moments ago, he's completely still, stale. This play is about a psychological war within the mind, as we were speaking of yesterday. Immediately onto the stage, now to finish 1-2 quickly for you. Immediately onto the stage comes Horatio, his pal. Hamlet is so distraught he doesn't recognize him as first. He doesn't recognize his own best friend. And he's like, Horatio, what are you doing here? And Horatio's like, yeah, I came back to see your father's funeral. Hamlet says, don't fool with me. I know you came back to see my mother's wedding. And Horatio says, yeah, they kind of came close together. And Hamlet says, are you kidding me? The food that we ate after we buried my dad at his funeral feast, the food we used for the wedding. The food hadn't yet rotted. My mom got married so fast. So notice his compression of time from 2 months down to just a day or so. The very food that we used to bury my dad after we buried him, we had a meal, that very food got used at my mother's wedding. To which Horatio says, yeah, you're right, it did follow fast on. Hamlet's like, yeah, no kidding. To which then there's some musings about Hamlet's dad. And Hamlet does this really weird thing where he kind of goes, my dad, I think I see my dad. And all of a sudden Horatio and the other guys on stage go, your dad? Where? Why are they like that? Where are they? Right, they've seen a ghost. To which Horatio will then say, your dad, I saw your dad. Hamlet's like, yeah, you did. No, I mean, I saw your dad last night. Hamlet's like, what are you talking about? And then the language becomes really staccato-like, for those of you into music. Very staccato-like, so that there's this back and forth between Horatio and Hamlet. And Horatio has to tell Hamlet, your dad's ghost was walking on the battlements last night. I'm pretty sure that's who it was. To which Hamlet will then say, uh-oh. Let's go to the final lines. And Shakespeare loves to finish these kinds of dramatic scenes with some kinds of powerful poetry. The decision is made for Hamlet that he will stand at the battlements tonight to meet the ghost and hopefully make some observations with the ghost. Everyone will leave the stage, and it's almost as if the soliloquy that we began with, the two solid flesh soliloquy, will then really end at the very end. Go to the final lines of this. Notice he says, my father's spirit in arms. By the way, arms here means he had body armor on. He's like he's at war. Notice he says, all is not well. I doubt some foul play. In other words, uh-oh, something's up. Would the night were come. Notice he finishes, till then sit still my soul. And then a remarkable line, one we'll come back to repeatedly. Foul deeds will rise, though all the earth o'erwhelm them to men's eyes. You take a bunch of seed, you don't know what it's going to produce. Throw it in the ground, cover it with a little bit of soil, stand back and wait. Something's going to grow and then you'll know what it is. But wait a minute, for your notes. This is a reference to what we will call the garden theme. What is the world? An unweeded garden, things rank and gross in nature possess it merely. We come back to this theme all the way through this play. Flowers and the garden theme will matter. Thank you.